Welcome to Awakening Truth Podcast, which is a podcast where women support women in being seen and being heard and sharing our wisdom and our experiences with healing, holistic healing, aligning mind, body, and soul, and really just stepping into the life that we truly desire and that we truly deserve, and just sharing that knowledge so that you can do the same. As a little reminder, feel free to pause this session at any moment that you would like to take notes or just reconnect with your body. We're going to be covering various different topics, and it's going to be really beneficial for you to remain connected to your body and just really tuned in with your heart space, your heart center, and listening with an open heart and open mind to really get the most from the session. So, without further ado, please enjoy this episode of the podcast. Well, thank you so much, Hannah, for joining me today. I am so excited for you to be here. I just love your energy from what I've seen so far. So I'm just excited to dive in and make magic happen today. But before we do that, I just want to invite us to close our eyes and anyone who is watching or listening to join us for a little grounding exercise so that we can just tune in with our heart and so that we can listen with our hearts and go from there. So let's just close down our eyes and just acquaint ourselves with our breath. A few deep breaths, feeling the sensations in our body that remind us that we're alive, we're here in the present moment. There's nowhere else we need to be, nothing else we need to be doing. It's full acceptance to be our raw, authentic selves. Just breathing into the heart, letting our heart space open up. Letting the light shine through. Breathing that down through our bodies, to our legs, to our feet, and letting that ground down into the earth, feeling that connection, the authentic connection that we have with the earth. That reminds us of our human nature. And breathing that back up into the heart. And exhaling that up through our head, through this portal that connects us with infinite wisdom. This intelligence from the universe. That connects us with our own innate wisdom. We are so powerful, and that's what this connection reminds us of. The limitless possibilities, limitless potential that each of us has to manifest exactly what we desire, exactly what's calling to our hearts in this lifetime. And just breathing that down, 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 back into the heart to connect with us here in the physical reality. I'm just carrying forward this intention to stay connected here in this space, staying connected to the earth, to the cosmos, and to the love that we can find within ourselves. And so with that, just inviting us to connect back in with the body, the physical sensations, just bringing awareness back into this moment, slowly opening the eyes and just bringing ourselves back into the physical space around us.
Wow. Thank you so much. Like a different person.
Well, thank you so much. That truly means a lot. So, yeah, I just would love to invite you now to introduce yourself and
Yeah.
just acquaint us with who you are and what you're about, for anyone who's listening who has never met you before, and even for myself.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your incredible podcast. That was a beautiful grounding practice. Just dropping into your heart is so powerful, isn't it? So to introduce myself, my name is Hannah Harmon. I am a business mentor and transformation guide, and I primarily work with new coaches, healers, space holders, heart-centered entrepreneurs who want to create their business, birth their vision in this world, and scale that business. And I do that through a combination of many, many things, ranging from soulful strategy to mindset work, energetic work, womb healing. I mean, there are so many things that I'm passionate about that I incorporate into what I do. But besides from being a business mentor and a transformation guide, I'm also just a woman on a healing journey, a transformational journey. I love to work and travel, and I just keep following the nudges and the whispers of my soul, and it's brought me to this moment with you here today. So it's been magical.
I love that so much. You did such a beautiful job of summarizing yourself. That's like one of the hardest things to do sometimes, because
Yeah.
like it's so difficult for us to like put labels on ourselves and to really describe like what we are actually.
Yeah, and I'm a manifesting generator as well. So if anyone listening knows about human design, you will know that manifesting generators have passions for everything. So yeah,
Yep.
that has taken practice.
I'm a manifesting generator. It's really
Yeah,
hard.
you know the pain, you know the pain.
Yeah, yeah, there's like a little bit of this over here. Ooh, that's like follow the shiny object syndrome.
It's a lot, but it is amazing.
Well, that's really powerful what you shared, and I'm sure that you do like such like transformational work for the women that you work with. And I feel like there's a powerful story behind every powerful woman, and I'm just
Very true.
curious to know a little bit about like your journey and how it began. And I feel like
Yeah,
that's so needed to like put things into perspective, because I think sometimes
yeah,
we can see the after, but it's difficult to kind of
yes.
see the before.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And, it's really interesting. And I find this happens with like a lot of heart centered entrepreneurs. But my journey was really born from darkness, you know, from feeling disconnected from myself. So, to give you some context, I struggled with an eating disorder for 7 years. So I had binge eating disorder. And I was at a school that was very academic. I never really felt like I belonged there. It wasn't expanding my soul. I was just kind of in this box and I was living on autopilot. And leaving school, I decided to go to university for a year. But again, I was just so cut off from my internal wisdom. I wasn't immersed in the world of self-help, personal development, spirituality. That just wasn't on my radar. So I very much found myself at university studying a degree that originally I thought I would love, but then the reality was very different. So I actually made the decision to drop out of uni. So I left university at 19, and then I found myself back at home, and I was struggling with mental health. I was still struggling with my eating disorder. I think my eating disorder really increased in intensity when I was at university as well. I found it really difficult to manage it at uni. And I just found myself in this position where I wasn't at uni anymore. I wasn't exactly clear on what my path was in life. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to do stuff that makes me happy. Okay. And what would that look like? So after deciding that going back to uni wouldn't be the decision I would make, I decided to start to walk dogs for a living, which I know is quite random to throw in there. But I started to walk dogs for a living, and eventually I created my own dog walking business as well. So I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do in my life, but I'm going to trust. I'm going to walk dogs because it makes me feel good. It gets me outside in nature. And around this same time, this was the first initial steps of my healing journey. So when I was walking dogs on the field, that would be when I would be listening to these self-help podcasts, you know, and this very much came into my world because of healing my relationship with food. So I was like, okay, food is something I am really struggling with. For a long time, I denied myself the help and support I needed. But the moment I started to receive that support, everything changed. I started to learn about the power of self-love. I started to do intuitive eating. So I was really connecting with my intuition. And honestly, the way I describe it is just like this snowball rolling down the side of a mountain, just gathering more and more and more snow. And as the snowball falls, so does my self-help book collection increases. Um, so yeah, I started to heal my relationship with food, and through that journey, connected with my heart, myself. And then I decided to start to share about it on Instagram. And since then, that snowball keeps falling, because then I started to train to become a coach, because I realized that all of the authors that I was looking up to, everyone that was inspiring me on my self-help journey, were also coaches. I was like, what is a coach? What does that even mean? I started my own coaching business. So I was like walking dogs, I was coaching. And eventually I just fell more and more in love with coaching, and my business just developed as I evolved. And I eventually ended up not walking dogs anymore. And long story short, it's just been this beautiful evolution where these powerful seeds were planted as I began to heal, and they still just continue to bloom and bloom and bloom. So that kind of brings me to today, where I now do business mentoring work and transformation coaching work. It's just been this crazy ride. So to put things into perspective, you know, if I had never worked on alchemizing my darkness into light and really listening to myself and my inner voice, I wouldn't be where I am today doing what I do at all. So yeah.
Mm. Yeah, wow, that was very enlightening. I learned a lot. Yeah, I feel like there's always like, when we kind of come up into like success, that comes from darkness, and I oh my gosh, like I'm a Scorpio rising, so I've been through a lot of darkness before, you know.
I love
um
Scorpio risings.
yeah, it's very intense, let me tell you. I feel intense, a lot of intensity, a lot of deep intense emotions, and they really overpowered me for a lot of my life, and I'm still like working through that now, and like still learning how
Yeah,
to like embrace this intensity and see it as something that's like so beautiful, you know. And
absolutely.
I feel like so many people kind of get caught up in that darkness, and it's really difficult for them to see
Mm,
the other side and to like keep hope. And I'm just
mm,
wondering, like, if there is something that you want
yeah.
other women to know who are like there in that moment, what would it be?
Mm, that's a wonderful question. The first thing that dropped in was just everything that you need. So, all of the power, the courage, the bravery, the light, it's all within you. And it's very much a journey of remembering and coming home, you know, and that sits within you. And there is so much wisdom within you waiting to be unlocked. And I think what I would say is the darkness doesn't have to be your forever, because I have distinct memories where I genuinely believed that I would struggle forever. I was just like, this is going to be it. And I think the most important thing to remember is that that is not your truth. You know, that's a lie that you're telling yourself, a lie that I was telling myself. So yeah, just really remembering that it's all within. And you just have to start by becoming aware and practicing that awareness, and then learning to listen to yourself and really lean in to that internal wisdom that's moving through you. Yeah.
Mm, yeah, yeah, I so agree with that. Just like kind of reflecting on my own journey too, it does feel like it's gonna last forever sometimes, but
Yeah.
you know, luckily that Sag sun balances it out, and I never gave up hope, right? Like,
Yeah, I'm also a Sagittarius sun, and we are optimists for sure.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like it's how I cope with the
Yeah.
darkness, you know. It's like
Mm,
finding that little piece of light, and we all have it. We all have that little
mm,
like bright star inside of us, and like the more we
yeah.
cultivate it, the more it grows, and it turns into like this inner galaxy of light, you know.
Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
kind
And
of just like,
just
yeah,
starting small. You
yeah.
know, I think I look back at the beginning of my journey when I think I'm trying to reflect back now. I think I remember I was working with this like wheel of life, and it had all these different areas like career, relationships, food, exercise, body, spirituality. And I remember looking at that and thinking, oh my God, like I don't even I don't even know where to begin.
Hmm.
And I always say, don't underestimate the power of taking small steps,
Hmm.
because they build and build and build, a bit like that snowball that I was talking about before. So, you know, if you're at the beginning of your journey and maybe you're listening to this podcast episode and you're also thinking, like, I want to make some changes, I want to grow, I want to evolve, I want to change the relationship I have with myself, don't overwhelm yourself. I started with food, you
Hmm.
know, and since then have birthed a business, have moved abroad, have had incredible connections with people, relationships, friendships. Like, it will unravel once you make that commitment to yourself. Just allow those small steps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think like I think that starting small is the only way. And it's funny because we
Yes.
tend to we tend to look at like the different parts of our lives, like you said, like the wheel of life. We tend to look at each of those parts of our
Mm,
lives as separate. They're all connected. They're all connected. So if you focus on one,
mm,
if you focus on one,
absolutely.
it's gonna have a positive effect on like all of the areas of your life, because things are gonna come back into balance.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is why I say as well, like inner work is so important when you're a heart-centered entrepreneur. Because, you know, something that I used to struggle with in my personal life was this addiction to struggle. You know, I had this belief that running a business could never feel easy. And I had to really work on my relationship with pleasure and ease and joy and flow and the feminine and all of these different things. And I'm still navigating that now. I'm still integrating so many lessons from that journey. But through doing that inner work myself, that had a huge impact on my business, had a huge impact on how many hours I was working or how I chose to show up in my business and all of these different things. It is very much this, they all interweave. That's the way I look at it. So this is why I'm super passionate as well about the importance of doing the inner work and committing yourself to the inner work if you are a coach or a healer, a space holder, because that is going to result in huge levels of growth, because it truly does just begin with us, because everything around us is mostly a reflection of what's within.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I like how you said mostly, because I think it goes like it can come within and without, but how do I explain this? It's like water that flows into one another, it's like kind of
Yes.
we affect
Yeah.
like one another, if that
Yeah.
makes
And that's why I always say you don't necessarily create your reality, you co-create your
yeah.
reality. Because for me, as a white woman with privilege, my ability to create my reality in certain areas of my life is going to be drastically different for example, a woman who is a part of a BIPOC community. So that's why I always say, you know, it's this co-creation and having that awareness. But I feel like I'm touching on so many different topics here. I feel like we could go in so many directions. We'll go in all the directions.
Yeah, it's just yeah, it's very true what you said. Co-creation is so important. I think like that also helps us to take some of the pressure off of ourselves, because I think
Yeah.
we feel like we have to like know all the answers, and we have to, it kind of just brings me back to my like situation right now. Like I've kind of been in this like void for the past
Yeah.
year of like really needing to like come back inside, because there's this like shift happening. I can feel the shift happening, and sometimes
Yeah.
shifting is like, I mean, it kind of leaves your ego being like, what's happening? Like what's
Yeah.
going on?
No
But it's like,
control. Yeah.
yeah, you have to like come back inside, because that's where the simplicity is, right? Like
Yeah.
coming home to yourself, and that will mean something different for everyone, right? Like coming
Yes.
home, it means something different, and it feels different for everyone, just like that
Yeah.
self-love means and feels different for everyone, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, self-love is a feeling as well. You know, it's not necessarily a look or an aesthetic or anything. It's how you feel in yourself.
Yeah.
You know, it's how you feel within your body, within your being. And to me, that's what self-love is as well. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's more like a feeling. It's like I mean, obviously it's a feeling, but
Mm.
it's like uh how much you feel like yourself, I think,
Yes.
right? It's like,
Yes.
do you feel like yourself? I feel like so many people don't feel like themselves. And I was just talking about this with someone earlier today, just like looking back on
Mm.
my journey 3 years ago. I did not feel like myself at all.
Yeah.
And my body reflected that. Like my body was a
Mm.
reflection of that, because I looked in the mirror and I didn't even know who I was looking at.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
how we feel on the inside is going to be reflected on how we appear and show up on the outside.
Oh, absolutely. And I think one of the biggest shifts in my way of thinking that happened at the beginning of my own healing journey was when I had this sudden realization that my self-worth was not defined by anything outside of myself. And to me now, that just sounds so obvious. Like, of course, it's not. It's not defined by your job or your education or how you look or how you sound. But back then, when someone told me for the first time that, hey, Hannah, you're worthy simply by being here,
Mm-hmm.
I, I was like, am I? Am I
Mm-hmm.
really allowed to think and feel that? Like, that's such a radical act of self-love.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my affirmation from that moment in time. And it's still something I share and speak about now, because it's absolutely the case for everyone listening to this as well. You know, you are quite frankly worthy just by being here. And it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter about, even I, again, because I help heart-centered entrepreneurs, you know, your business is not a reflection of how worthy you are and how divine you are. That's just innately within you. Everything else is just like a plus, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like if you have a successful business, and then even that, you know, a successful business, that's your own unique definition of success. For someone, a successful business could be making £2,000 a month, doing what they love, with that
Mm-hmm.
in-person events, and everything they do has this element of community and it's all in person. For someone else, their definition of success could just be that they have a huge audience because it's full of people that they love and they love to speak. You know, it's your own definition.
Mm-hmm.
um so yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think we've been primed to kind of think that success is one thing. It means like
Mhm.
making a certain amount of money and having a certain
Yes.
level of status. But I feel
Mm.
like success needs to be measured more on the feeling. How does it make you
Yes.
feel? Are you
Yeah.
happy? Like, are you
Are you
experiencing joy
happy?
every day?
Mm. Yes, because that is truly everything, isn't it? When you feel that joy, 100%. Yeah. And I think it's just, I think it's just important to always be curious and open to these things and ask yourself, you know, what do you value as an individual? What is your definition of success as an individual? What do you think determines your worth as an individual? You know, all of these questions are questions that came into my world and I had to sit with for a while, and they still unravel now. And I think it goes back to that point we shared earlier of start with the awareness, and
Hmm.
everything is going to flow from that.
Yeah.
Observe yourself with love, with compassion, don't react, and it will all start to unravel.
Yeah. And I would say too, those are really good points. I would say too, like allow your values to like shift and change as you shift
Yes.
and change. Because like
Yes,
what I
allow
what I
everything.
valued like 5 years ago is not the same as it is today.
Exactly. And we're meant to change and evolve, right? You know, we're
Mhm.
always growing. I'm not going to be the same person I was before this podcast episode. You know, I'm not going to be the same person as I was 30 seconds ago. You know, we're always, always, always growing and transforming, and allowing room for that with our values, within our business, um, within our relationships, just everything, everything.
Mhm.
So for me, I personally, I value growth, you know, and it's important for me. And within my business, I value growth. I also value embodying what I talk about.
Mhm.
So something that's been moving through a lot for me recently is I've been really feeling into what does feminine leadership look like, you know, divine feminine leadership. And for me, it's important because I value embodying what I teach. It's important for me to also embody what a balanced way of leading looks like. So, a balance of both the masculine and the feminine, leading with the feminine. What does that look like? And embodying that first, you
Mhm.
know? So, that's been moving through really strongly for me recently. And you could value the same thing. You could also value, and you could also value things like inclusivity, integrity. But you're absolutely right. You know, it's there to change. It's there to evolve. It's the best
Mhm.
bit about life. We're always
Mhm.
changing.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to give ourselves that freedom.
Mm,
We need to give ourselves that freedom, especially because there's this like I mean, I've heard this before in my life. I don't know if you have, but it's like, ooh, you've changed. Like, have you like had
mm.
someone say that to
Good.
you before? So it's just
That's a
like
compliment.
it's like this like belief that a lot of the collective has is like this fear
Yeah.
of change, this fear of showing up and as someone different than you were yesterday. And I feel like that fear holds a lot of people back
Yeah.
from truly becoming themselves, like from being their true self.
Yeah. And like I said before, it's a compliment when someone says you've changed, because what are you supposed to do? Just remain the same for life? I mean, we were just, and this is the thing, is like, I was actually saying to a friend yesterday myself, I was like, I really value growth, but sometimes I just wish I didn't, because growth is uncomfortable. Like, growth feels so uncomfortable. I basically value discomfort, really. But he said something really powerful, which was a reminder for me, which is, you might not like that you value growth, but your soul does, and that's what matters. And when you feel into the energy of your soul, when you connect to your heart, you start to notice that that energy, it does feel expansive. It's not limited by anything. And when people are saying to you, like, oh, listen to your soul, like, what would your soul do? What would your higher self do? Essentially, it's getting you to align with this really expansive, limitless energy. Because it's true. Your soul is here to do its work. At least that's what I personally believe. I know that might not resonate with everyone, but I personally believe that your soul is here to grow, and your human self might experience this discomfort, but your soul is here to shine and to expand, and it isn't defined or limited by anything. Which is
Right.
why sometimes when I get these intuitive nudges like, Hannah, go to Mexico, I'm like, what? That makes no sense. Like, why would I go to Mexico now? Wouldn't London make more logical sense? The soul doesn't care about logic, it just gives you these nudges. And I always say, like, even if logically it might not make complete sense, if it feels right in your heart, there's so much power there. So I did listen, and I answered the call, and I went to Mexico. And since then, everything has come into fruition that I thought it would. And again, it's just that evidence of your soul is always guiding you. You just got to lean in and listen and be open to that, you know, be
Yeah.
open to it.
Yeah. A lot of those nudges can seem very scary because they
Yeah.
seemingly lead to nowhere. Like they seemingly lead to like it's the
Mm,
unknown. It's like, well, if I go to Mexico, for example, what am I gonna do next? Like what's the next step?
yeah.
And that's so
Yeah.
uncomfortable for so many people is that
Yeah.
unknown. But I just want to share that like if anyone is facing those the challenge of
Mm,
like maybe your intuition is telling you to go somewhere but you don't know where it's going to lead and it feels really scary and unknown.
yeah.
The unknown is actually incredibly liberating
Mm,
because anything is possible after that.
yes. I love that. I think, and yeah, and I think there's also ways of supporting yourself with the unknown. Like for me, I remember when I first, because for me, the reason why I created my business, a big part of it is because I value freedom. I wanted to work and travel. I wanted to work and also be able to meet incredible people, visit all of these amazing places, like feel the expansion of all of these different places. So I remember the first time I left to kind of delve into that unknown, not really knowing if I would have Wi-Fi, not knowing what solo traveling would be would be like, not knowing where I would end up. I supported myself because I said to myself, okay, let's give myself 3 weeks. I'll go to Croatia for 3 weeks. If I hate it, I'll come back home earlier. Then what have I got to lose? At least I can say I've tried. So there's ways of holding yourself even when you're in the unknown. And what ended up happening was I got out there, and very quickly, within the space of about 2 days, maybe just the moment I landed or got off the plane, I was like, okay, no, we're going to continue this journey. And you build up that trust and you build up that self-belief, and it gets easier and easier, because I didn't know where I would go after Croatia. I was like, let's see. You meet people in the hostels, people are telling you about where to go, and quickly you're like, okay, let's try here. And then like I said, that just continues to evolve. So I went to Europe initially and built up my confidence. And then that meant when I received that nudge to go to Mexico, even though it was like very out of my comfort zone still, I'd already built up that foundation of self-belief as evidence to support myself. And I did the exact same thing. I booked an Airbnb for a month and I was like, it's just a month. It's a month in Mexico. If we don't like it, we can come home early, etc., etc. I've now been here for nearly 2 months and I don't think I'm going to be coming back for a while. So I think it's just, again, supporting yourself, but also, like you say, recognizing that there is magic in the unknown, and that you're held and protected and supported, and you are never alone in any of it. You're never alone.
Yeah, you're never
Yeah.
alone. I mean, we're always being supported by
Mhm.
like our own inner self, but the universe, but also like the beautiful people around us. And
Yes.
mm, I think like people really struggle with trusting other
Yeah.
people, with like
Yeah.
trusting other people. And I think that
Yeah.
ultimately comes with that fear of like almost like trusting yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that you've just touched on something really powerful there about self-trust. Something that also came up for me there as well was the sisterhood wound,
Mm,
and learning to trust other women, other sisters. This was a journey that I went on. Whew, I'm still on the journey. Like you said before, the journey is never over. It just continues and continues and continues. There is no final destination ever. We're always going to be growing and learning. And for me, the sisterhood wound and healing that is this continuous thing. And I used to have so many walls up around other women. I wouldn't let anyone in. I didn't trust other women. And this was a combination of things from what I believe to be past lives. So, wounding from past lives, past generations, but also friendships in my own life and in this lifetime. But healing that and coming through the other side and really embracing the medicine of sisterhood has been incredibly transformative for me. So, again, if anyone's listening to this and maybe you feel that disconnect from women around you, I would just strongly invite you to explore that, because I know my life will never be the same because of that. It's just, you feel that deep support,
yeah.
and that also helps you to feel less alone when you realize that actually you are a part of this incredible global sisterhood
Mm,
where you are embraced with so much love.
mm-hmm,
So,
mm-hmm.
yeah, never alone.
Yeah, I feel that a lot. I have a pretty deep wound myself around sisterhood.
Yeah,
And yeah, I won't go into that right now, but yeah, just like a really long history of
yeah,
betrayal and,
of
all this
course.
stuff, and I'm sure so many people go through that. And
Yeah,
I really strongly feel that I'm here. Like part of my mission in this lifetime is to like break that pattern.
yeah,
Um, and, I feel like I'm really kind of taking that into my own hands, especially this year, just because I've been without
yeah,
sisterhood for so long. Like ever since I moved
yeah.
to France, like it's been really difficult to make
Amazing.
those genuine, like deep connections. And like,
Mhm.
I think it had like once you start doing the inner work, it becomes easier to start opening up and
Yeah,
trusting more. And
yeah,
so now I'm like at that point where I'm able to like
yeah.
take
For
more
me,
risks.
things like online circles. So I do run my own online circles as well, and they are a very nice space to start to open up and start to develop those deeper connections with women.
Yeah.
Also going along to things like retreats, very
Mm-hmm.
transformative, very powerful, connecting with women in real life. And I think I remember the first time I identified that I had this wall up around other women was when I was on a retreat. I was in Glastonbury, which is a really magical place in the UK. Um, and I remember I shared, it was a part of this beautiful cacao ceremony. And I shared to the group that I just really struggled to connect. Like I actually said to everyone, like, I just feel like I can't trust any of you. And it's
Mm-hmm.
such a horrible thing to admit, but I just can't help but feel this way. And I didn't expect to, but of course, when you're receiving the medicine of the cacao, like, oh, it just opens up your heart. I just burst into tears
Mm-hmm.
because I realized there was actually this real deep internal longing of mine to be held by other women, be empowered and inspired by other women. And I always say I had to meet my own inner goddess before I could see the goddess within other women first.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that moment always stays with me because I feel like that was the beginning of that journey and that unraveling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, wherever you can, if you feel that nudge to heal your sisterhood wound and join a circle or a space or a retreat, to just start to slowly, bit by bit, bring that wall down, you know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
then I just invite you to explore that because it's really beautiful.
Yeah, it's so powerful. I think we need
Yeah.
that sort of connection,
Yeah.
because that's what's going to heal like the world, you know.
Yes.
like,
Oh
like
yeah.
just this like opening, like it just allows us to open our hearts
Yeah.
so much more, and
Yeah.
to just, it gives us permission to be authentically ourselves,
Yeah.
like you sitting there and like being like in the circle and like sharing that truth
Yes.
with everyone,
Yes.
even though maybe some shame got brought up because it's like this is
Mhm.
really difficult for me to admit, but it's like that moment
Yeah.
changes, like it changes history, you know, it changes the
Yeah.
vibration of the future, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, yeah, wherever you can do that in a space that's safe and that is ran by someone who knows what they're doing, you know, and can really hold you in that space and recognizes the importance of things like integration, then yeah, why, you know, and you don't have to dive in there and reveal all of your deepest and darkest shadows immediately, you know, because your nervous system is important too. We're not here to like re-traumatize you, you know, it's just small steps. It comes back to those small, tiny little steps. Maybe the first
Mm-hmm.
time you go to a circle, you share your name and where you're from. Then the
Mm-hmm.
second time you start to open up about something that's bothering you that day. And then eventually you open up about things in the past and you allow it to come together at your own pace, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and you take from that what you want always. That applies to everything, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like as you're sharing that, it kind of brought up something too, is it's like being in those sorts of containers, it allows you to start
Yeah.
speaking your truth. And that is so
Yes.
important. Like,
And identifying how you feel and like validating how you feel, you
mm-hmm.
know, because if you've ever grown up and you've been around someone that's potentially gaslighted you or made you question how you feel,
Mm-hmm.
when you attend a circle like that, it's very much this process of, okay, I've identified this about myself. I've identified that this is how I feel about something. And now I'm going to share that so that I feel supported with it and that I can start to work through that even more. And 100%, like that's how going to circles has helped me because I now feel more able to share about how I feel with people, which is a big
Mm-hmm.
thing for me that used to be so difficult. And I'm also less afraid about speaking my truth because I am more grounded in my own power and I feel that support. So, yeah, so many benefits. I feel like we're shining a lot of beautiful light on the power of sisterhood today,
Mm-hmm.
which is really magic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Mm, I like that we touched on these topics. I think like, they
Yes.
need to be brought to the light more. And I think they are, like when we see in some of these like
Yeah.
spiritual communities and stuff, we are talking more about sisterhood, but I really hope it starts to reach like ears that are not maybe as attuned to these sorts of topics, because
Yeah.
I feel like everyone just needs to know about it, you know?
Yes. And it's definitely happening. I think more and more people are discovering it day by day by day. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm like,
Amazing.
I'm scheduled to go back to the US soon, and I'm going to be reconnecting with people who I
Amazing.
haven't seen for a while. And these are people I
Perfect.
haven't seen for maybe like 7 years or something. I'm quite a different person
Wow.
than then. And
Yeah.
I remember 7 years ago, there are a couple of women who
Mm,
we didn't really like get along very well. So I'm like feeling very like, there's like that version of me that's feeling very like anxious to connect
yeah,
with them again. But
of
also there's
course.
that part of me that's like, no, you've done so much inner work. Just go be yourself and
Yeah.
shine your light. And if they want to be a part of that,
Hmm.
then they'll be a part of that.
Yeah. And I think this
So,
is something that I've just learned to embrace more and more recently, which is exactly that. Like, we're not here to apologize for shining our light. We're just here to shine. And I think, was it Lady Gaga? I might be quoting the complete wrong person here, but I think Lady Gaga just came into my head. But she said, like, if you're blinded by my light, I'm not going to dim my light. Just buy a stronger pair of sunglasses or just buy sunglasses. And
mhm,
it's so true. And I think the more you can embrace that, the better, because I think shining your lights serves everyone, because
mhm,
it shows people maybe where they're not shining, or maybe where they've got parts of themselves that they're not able to express, so that they can then work on that and heal that. But it also serves other people in terms of it gives them a permission slip to step into their power even more. It
mhm,
serves everyone when you shine. What serves no one is dimming your light because of fear of judgment, fear of, will I be accepted? And something I'll say to that is, that's completely normal if you feel that way, because you're a human. Biologically, we don't want to stand out necessarily. We don't want to risk being pushed out of our community. We want to survive. We're wired for survival.
mhm,
But when you start to recognize that and acknowledge that, and you realize that that will always kind of be a fear that's there, and you have to kind of come back into your body and your heart and navigate that, then it's just this continuous process of like, okay, I'm not here to play small. And an affirmation that I just keep saying to myself recently, which is quite funny, you'll probably hear me like shout it in the shower, or if I'm like cooking in the kitchen, I'm just like, I'm not here to play small. Playing small is really boring. I just realized that the other day, like, playing small is boring. And I,
mhm,
I don't want to live a boring life. Like, so yeah, just unapologetically be yourself, and the right people will come into your life, and you will be such an incredible permission slip for people to embrace themselves.
mm.
And that's just a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Oh yeah, it's so powerful. And like in the bigger picture,
Yeah.
even if you get cast out by that community, you're never
Mm,
alone. There are
yeah.
always going to be people there who will support you.
Always.
Like there's
Always.
always going to be someone there to kind of catch you when you fall. And if there isn't someone there immediately, like you got yourself,
Yeah.
babe. Like.
Yes. And like you said, you're never alone. There's so many incredible things out there that will support you. And I think it's about having that trust and faith that you will find that, you know. And yeah, that's a really beautiful point.
Mm. I feel like that is like the perfect place for us to start wrapping it up. I think that's
Yes.
just like such a beautiful end note. Is there anything else that you want to share or say before we close?
So funny. I just want to say, like, I just feel like this will really touch someone out there who's listening to this. Like, if this episode just finds them at like the most perfect time. And I just want to say, trust yourself.
Mm,
You know what's right for you. Just trust yourself. And yeah, I remember when someone told me that, I really needed to hear it. So
mhm,
yeah, simple but powerful. In terms of where you can find me, I'm very active on Instagram. That's like my only social media platform, I think. The one I use the most. And my username is at I am Hannah Harmon, spelled like harmony.
mhm,
Um, and yeah, if you ever want to drop me a follow or reach out to me, if you're also thinking about either scaling or birthing your coaching and healing business, you can just drop me a message. I have loads of different offerings for people at different parts of their journey. on different parts of their journey, whether you're just starting out, you don't have a lot to invest, or you're kind of ready to go all in and make it happen. I've got something for everyone. So just pop me a message or book in a call and we can have a chat. I prefer connecting with people on a call, So the best thing I would say is just head straight for the discovery call link, book in a discovery call, and we can just have a good old chat. So yeah.
Perfect. Well, I'll put all of that down in the description too. I'll put your Instagram handle down there for everyone so they can connect with you. Well, thank you so much, Hannah. That was so wonderful. I know that there was so much gold in there that people are going to benefit from. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Wow, that was such a powerful, powerful conversation. If you enjoyed this episode of Awakening Truth podcast and you would like to get more, feel free to like this video and subscribe to the channel, and do share your own truth in the comments. We would love to know what you felt from this conversation, and really just encouraging you to speak and share a little bit of your truth with us today, as that is truly powerful for, all of humanity. I truly believe that we're all connected. So would love to see you and feel you in the comments. Tune in next Sunday for the next episode of Awakening Truth podcast.